Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So your docu-series, Social Studies, is about the first generation of kids that grew up their entire lives with social media. And I hate social media, for the record, and I also hate kids. And you made me actually feel empathy for them in this show. Because I went into this docu-series thinking we're gonna see a bunch of like spoiled kids who are narcissistic, who are on social media, and they're just being total dicks. But instead, lo and behold, what we saw mostly is what struck me the strongest was these kids who you can tell they feel like something is wrong with them being on social media, and they are asking for help. And I didn't expect that.
Absolutely. I think that's why a lot of the kids participated. We started after COVID, and the usage had gone way up to 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day. And I think they felt very trapped by it, very affected by it, and were really interested in being in this long-term inquiry where we filmed them for 1 year, and they gave access to their phones.
Right, and the access of the documentary is incredible, because you see them in the bedrooms, you see them using their phones. In some cases, you see them, like, the camera's on as they're using it.
Yeah.
And how did you hack their phones?
That's actually a really good question, because some of the programs were very difficult. So first it was a technological problem I had to solve. We hired an engineer.
Anonymous to hack these kids.
We hired an engineer to
hack these kids.
One of the kids had all agreed to let us into their phones.
Okay.
That was the agreement.
Really?
That was the agreement. That was like the starting off, because I realized when I started this project that we needed to know what was inside these phones to be able to do this social experiment about what is the impact.
Of course, and you tricked them with candy.
So no, they had to. I talked to a lot of kids and their parents, and part of the ground rule was they needed to agree to do this.
And they just let you in. They let you in.
Well, it was a process, because we really built trust and spent a lot of time with them through the year. I mean, they definitely took it very seriously. They looked at my work. Their parents looked at my work. They didn't make the decision lightly. But even so, in the beginning, we found out later, they weren't sharing everything with us, but their trust grew and grew.
Yeah, no shit. They weren't sharing everything.
But I was very transparent with everybody about what we were doing, and they had skin in the game. They wanted to participate. Right. But I still had to figure it out technologically, and I hired an engineer to help me, because one of the programs in particular doesn't want you to download it. And the engineer couldn't figure it out. So my 14-year-old son ended up helping me hack into the...
You turned to your son for tech support, But you got the access. The access is one thing. But what you actually saw and what you are showing in this docuseries is remarkable, I think. I mean, these kids are using social media. Like, so are these kids going to be okay? Are they okay?
Well, you got to watch till the end. I think.
No, just tell me now. Just tell. We just need to know how this ends. Are they alive?
Yes.
What happened?
Yeah. By the 5th episode, I think we see that they do find their voice, and that's an antidote to this very toxic comparison culture. I think what we see in the show is that kids are suffering from 24/7 comparison. That takes away from everything. They never feel like they're enough, and kids have always looked at, like, what are the popular kids doing, or what are the kids at my school doing? But here they're looking at every person in the world, half of them who are not even real or who are enhanced, and they don't measure up. So I think that is so tough, and I think that's one of the reasons they participated, is because they wanted to talk about it and have a place to process.
Right, and I mean, okay, so them not feeling good on social media, no duh. Like, of course, I hate kids, and I could tell you that they're probably gonna. But I guess how much of that is just normal teenage awkwardness, and how much of this is social media playing a factor into it?
Social media has a factor on everything. I've looked at youth culture since the 90s, and social media is amplifying all of the problems of coming of age. I'll give you an example. 2006, I made my first film about eating disorders. It was called Thin. At that time, 1 in 7 girls suffered from an eating disorder. While I was doing social studies, in one interview, one girl said, half my friends have eating disorders from TikTok, and the other half are lying. What you see in the show, and that's where the silent clapping that you saw in the clip comes in, is it's so ubiquitous, it's so universal, and the kids are relating to each other. And we're not just talking about feeling bad about, not being the football quarterback. We're talking about self-harm, eating disorders, depression, even suicidal ideation. And these are things that many kids, even in our small group of 25, were dealing with.
Sure, but how does social media specifically, does it, I mean, isn't this just a teenage, kids are, we feel anxious. I remember feeling anxious. I barely had a pager when I was a kid. I'm like 39, so is that old? I don't know. Am I old? I don't know. Anyway, the point, I'm saying, I'm just saying, like, I also felt going to school awkward and comparisons. And so how much of this is just, are we blaming the wrong people here?
I mean, social media teaches values, and values change behavior. Like, for example, Sydney, in the first episode, she talks about how when she got on Instagram, she started posting her passion, which was photography, wasn't getting any likes. So she started posting her body, started getting a lot of likes. That leads to very provocative thirst traps, which you see this young girl talking about it in her bedroom. She looks completely innocent, sweatshirt, fidgeting nervously, pastel colors in the room. And then when you see the videos, you don't recognize the same girl. It almost could be like an OnlyFans site.
Okay, now you're scaring the shit out of everybody. So how do we, like, what's the solution here? Because again, one of the things that struck me in the documentary was, I can't emphasize enough how much the children in this, they were saying, they were using the phones, and they were like, we know this is bad, and we need adults to step in and help us, someone help us. And, and I think that's a marked departure from kids who usually think they're like telling the adults to off and give me some drugs. And these kids are like, these kids are like, hey, we need some adults here because we don't know what's happening. Can you please help us?
Yeah.
So how do we help these kids?
Well, I think you've touched on a huge problem, which is parents.
Drugs. Oh, yeah.
Well, it is a drug.
Yes,
it is highly addictive, and so they can't do it on their own. Like, and that's something I learned as a parent. I used to get upset with my son and blame him.
And beat him, yeah.
But it's like blaming a drug addict for an opiate addiction.
Right.
And
it's almost like it's like blaming. It's like giving your kids drugs and telling them not to use it while having drugs in your pocket as you use it. That's kind of what's...
Well, Jonathan says at the end, it's our lifeline, but it's also a loaded gun.
Right.
It's got this dual thing where you can't live without it and you can't live with it. So what other thing is a lifeline that we would also say is as dangerous as a loaded gun?
No, oh, sorry, no. Yeah.
And I think they are calling out for help. Like Sydney says, it's kind of like when we learned that cigarettes had a connection to lung cancer. Like now we know social media has a connection to eating disorders and depression and suicidal ideation. We need to do something about it.
Right.
And they say, so let's get off. But then somebody brings up the existential question, do you exist if you're not on social? And all the kids are like, no, people forget about who you are.
Okay, yeah.
So what should we do? I mean, I think there are things that we can do. The algorithm does not have to be this way. The algorithm is this teaching tool that will literally take somebody who is just interested in a diet and eventually bring them down a path that could lead to an eating disorder.
Sure.
Or kids are self-diagnosing their mental illness. So the algorithm doesn't have to be like that. It's not like this in China. TikTok is educational. In fact, kids can't be on more than 2 hours a day.
Is that true? I didn't even know.
And so the algorithm is made by engineers to do exactly what it's doing, which is maximum engagement without any concern for young people's well-being. So of course it brings everybody, adults too, deeper and deeper into these dangerous rabbit holes.
Right. So, I mean, the algorithm is a problem, and obviously this goes into kind of America's relationship with companies and corporations, where in America the culture is kind of less regulation and more individual rights, right? And so in that, obviously, yes, ideally these social media companies would do something, and hopefully lobbying and whatever we have to do to, get these guys to do that. But other than leaving it to them, what can we do in the meantime? Because obviously that's doesn't seem like it's gonna happen.
Well, I think the first thing is awareness. Like, we did the show so that parents could watch, adults could watch, young people could watch, and the media literacy is really important. We made an educational curriculum with the Annenberg Foundation that we hope gets used in more and more schools, so young people can start processing what they're seeing, and parents can see what's going on and have discussions with their kids about it. That's one thing. The other thing, I think once they realize what's going on, is giving phones to kids at an older age. A lot of
like 6 months to 5 to 6 months.
All the kids get the phones from their parents, and actually we hear one parent say, you know, I got it for my daughter so that she would be safe. I think what we see is it's actually not safe, and it can be more dangerous to be in your own bedroom with this portal into the world than at the playground.
Yeah.
I think parents deciding together, let's all not do phones, because it's hard for one person. We went and met.
Oh, you mean parents with their kids? Oh, yeah.
Exactly. We went to meet with lawmakers, with some of the students who are in the show, to talk to them about getting phones out of schools.
Yeah.
So, and I think.
And how do you think that culturally is going in America? Because
I think people are interested in it. I think teachers, young people,
parents,
and
even
parents,
the students are like, hey, let's get this thing out of.
But I think we really do need the tech companies to help with this, because it is so addictive. It's also vital to so many good things that we need technology to do.
Sure. Well, I mean, this is, I guess ask you because you're an expert in this. You're one of the few experts I know on this subject. I mean, social media, obviously, narcissism, plays into narcissism and all this, teenage angst. But the other aspect of it is also social media being almost kind of like a new avenue of career paths now. Meaning, it's not just for narcissistic tendencies. It's actually, there's stuff you need to know on social media just to prepare yourself for the job market in the future. Because there's all these jobs which we won't know about that are going to exist in 10 years that you can only get the skill set by being on it now. So how do you draw the balance between not being a Luddite, being able to actually gain useful skill sets, but then also having all this toxic stuff that comes
I don't know if we're getting that much useful skill sets for careers on social media. I mean, the kids are always talking about being on TikTok and several hours go by.
Do you know how much money you can make just doing this now? if you
Well, yeah, young people want it. That's one of the values that I discovered is young people, when you ask them what they want to do when they grow up, they say rich and famous. Like being a social media influencer is an attractive career path. In fact, one girl in episode 1 says, if I could have the lifestyle of Kim Kardashian by doing a sex tape, I would do that too.
Okay, now you're scaring the shit out of everybody. But then how do you reconcile that with them saying they know this is bad, but now you're telling me they also want that as a career path? So what is it? Like, make up your minds, just dumb kids. Like, what do you want?
There's a lot that they learn on social media that is misinformation or misleading. I mean, it's also the way kids learn about sex now, and that takes...
Oh, man, don't even go into that. That's...
But, I mean, I want to be clear, technology, I think, is important. And we also hear kids talking about finding affinity groups on social media. And, there's some entrepreneurs in the group who do their business, like a party business or a music business, through social media. But in terms of whether it's really preparing us for career paths, I think that the way they do it in China, where they have 2 hours of social media and a lot of homework, would probably prepare our kids better.
This is such a race reversal right now that this... Yeah, sure, applaud. Applaud this white woman telling me to be more Chinese. I don't know what you're saying. What are you saying?
I'm not saying we should do it like it's done in China, in the sense that there's also a lot of censorship. But what I am saying is we need some guidance from the adult world. We can't just have kids scrolling interminably 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day. And what we see in the show, and I don't want to be like the adults saying this is what we should do. I did this experiment so we could really hear from the kids.
Yes.
And there are a lot of...
That came across, by the way. That came across.
Okay, good. Yeah. There are a lot of experts in this, but I think this is the first time we really hear from the kids, their point of view. And by the end of it, they say, we want to connect without devices. They say, wouldn't it be great if we could just have conversations like this in the real world? And for somebody from my generation, I'm thinking like, wow, that's incredible that just having a conversation with your peers seems out of reach. But that kind of empathetic conversation that they have in the show, that does seem out of reach for them. And I think we need to work on that and create those spaces we're actually doing a museum exhibition that's going to open in Germany next fall. And we're trying to create some spaces to have these dialogues with young people, because even the discussion groups that we do in the show, that really came from them. I started it just for research. I did not expect it to be in the docu-series, but I saw how happy they were to have other kids to talk about things with. It was the first time they saw they weren't alone.
Empathy and dialogue, that's never going to work with these kids. All right, well, hey, listen, your documentary was really great. I really encourage everyone to watch it. Thank you for making it. And thank you for speaking to the kids with an open heart and seeing what they had to say and teaching all of us what they had to say. I hope the kids are okay, but either way, I'll be okay. All episodes of FX Social Studies are streaming now on Hulu. Lauren Greenfield, everybody.